All right, so YouTube, I now remember. I used to do this. And it has a flipper tool. Like, see, I can go like this and push this button and out. So I solved my problem from videos 1 and 2. Anyway, I've been thinking more, just deciding to be the president of the whole wide world. I think it puts me in good mental places. I mean, I know other people think about this, but from pastor to pastor, whatever, they mainly think about their church and taking care of it. That's the people that I think of, kind of the highest degree of good out there in this world. I mean, I tell you what, they F it up a ton. I testify that, but I do believe they're the primary vehicle for transferring goodness. All right? And a flaw, as I see it, because their viewpoints are too small. They forget about the Great Commission, or at least they view it as sending out missionaries. Well, what if we just think globally? What if you decided to be like me and said, I want to be what do we want to be the president of the whole wide world? I mean, even in some of my thinking about Revelation, I'm just saying the Christian mindset is that the world's going down and it's going to be some kind of war and bad. I mean, and I don't know that there's not a so when we look to the final book as Christian, I mean the most predominant religion in the whole world, right? I mean it's got a bad ending, and I'm not here to fight that. I'm at least starting to get ideas out there about I sent an email to this guy, and we kind of decided I wasn't the Antichrist or any possible person even ushering it in. So we can leave that to God. Okay? So, like a friend of mine said when we were talking about trouble the other day, like, well, sin is in this world. We live in a fallen world, so, just throw up our hands and we're done. Well, I don't think like that. I mean, why should we think? I mean, isn't that really probably is kind of a pervasive thought? We just have to get through life and do our best, and we can decorate it with money and Christmas trees and whatever. But what if we really try to change the whole world for good? I mean, don't they joke about that when they ask like, if you're the what do you call it, the Miss America pageant, and they say what would you like, and they say some kind of and I don't even know this. This is just something in my head. I've watched Miss America, but not that much. I mean, really, I mean that is not on my radar, and I just don't. I haven't. It's not like I don't. But I think that a common joke is that they just kind of say they want world peace. So is that really, what's Beta Rock? If I do want to be the president of the whole wide world, or just you, pastors, just think about what does that look like if we think different? And I do think that it kind of gets still back to this diagram to kind of talk about things. So let's try see where this goes. I've been thinking about it for a while. So, this is kind of the Christian ideal, and if you're not a Christian, then I don't know. But forgetting, like, let's switch this around again so you can see my face. I'd like to think like I think. Of course, that's why I talk about it, but I think it's very good thinking. I'm trying to think about everybody and whatever. For good. Trying to honor people, trying to accept free will, trying to go with God, be good, all this. But did I forget to say, my point about, I was starting to go, jam that in, hopefully I can come back to the path I was on. But this friend was saying, well, we live in a fallen world, and so, we might as well. And I said, well, that'd be kind of like if you have roaches in your house and you just let them just run freely, like there goes one, we're never going to get rid of roaches, like we're never going to get rid of sin. But doggone it, we can sure get some roach killer. I mean, think about it, right? I mean, if you take care of the roaches, we're never going to get into a place where there's not sin. I can't biblically preach that, but I sure can say the roach analogy and say, well, we can sure get rid of a lot of the roaches. Same with sin. Like, let's give it a shot. I mean, let's think positive. Let's be happy. So just expand that roach analogy in your house to the whole wide world. Let's think that we can have every single person buy into Christianity. What would that look like, and why would they do it, and what does that mean? I think it just gets down to America and different things about how we think. We want to give people, I think, right? I mean, what I've been thinking about is I think America has certain ethics, and they're based on, democracy, and certainly they were based on Christian principles out of the gate. I think that the Holy Spirit's in everybody. I mean, there's passages in Romans that say, look, dude, whether you believe in Jesus or not doesn't mean that you're going to hell whether you did or didn't. I mean, and what was this, some kind of progressive revelation, like depending on how much truth you've heard depends on how severely you're judged, and that, I mean, it gets into stuff I don't mean to, but what is the point of that? Oh, like, you don't have a choice here. I mean, whether you believe it or don't. But we need to advance this cause, and it's partly so. So a lot of things are flying, but let's try. I'll try to stay with it as much as I ask you to. Biggest picture in the whole wide world, the whole world. What would this lesson? What do we teach? I like to think, what if God doesn't exist? Let's just put it out there. I mean, let's just say there is no God and somehow we poof from some kind of big bang mumbo jumbo total bullshit, but let's just go with that. Here we are living along, and one ethic that seems very common, I think even the Muslims and Arabs and anybody, I mean, let's not kill each other. Okay, let's live in peace. Then we got resources and stuff that we want to share around from resources, but how do we just live in peace? So we have to get people buying into Jesus at this fundamental level to really have world peace, or what's it going to be? Now, to really speak to my own life, and I think it applies to everything, but I'm saying that America let's now flip around here. Okay, so I'm saying that this rock that we should stand on is the Bible-based, and there's this website called Got Questions, and I'm trying to write it in gotquestions.org, and this is what I was doing with the seminary place. I was saying, we live in a day and age where we got a resource like this. This is so good, because I was asking him about his doctrine statements, and I mean, who in the world inside of a seminary? Just think about it, we never even had a resource like gotquestions.com or .org. Well, now we do, so let's improve. Like, we're evolving. Like, that just should, I read this, and a few things in there I've kind of disputed about, but by and large, at least we have a vehicle upon which we can make a rock. Like, just psychologically speaking, not whether, let's say, you agree with it or not. It's a sound document for all matters of life. I think that is absolute frickin' truth. So I think in America, we say that we are freedom of everything, thinking that that's good. But what we really are, hear me now, is we are an American system based on U.S. law, which then essentially becomes a rock of itself. At least it's like a surrounding rock that tries to gather up this pile of life that we have and leaves it with some kind of a base that we don't. Listen to me now. So we live in peace. That's one thing you can kind of think, like, we live in peace. Well, your peace doesn't do, let's see if I can pull up this chart, because I was doing this, and this is where some of the deepest things just come together. It's on my Facebook, but one of the reasons I had to stop Sollenberger Accounting was because I realized that basically the ethic that I had, because I was public and I wanted money, it's not just one straight thing, but basically the ethical guide that we had to kind of live by, so I could kind of trust it. And well, Romans 13 says America's under government. It wasn't without absence of thought here. But let's look at this chart. Here's these different categories of what makes up wellness in a person's life. And we got spiritual there, and I'd want to say Christian, but let's just even let it be spiritual. And this document defines this, and I think it's very good. And so this is the kind of thing that I think that we should have in Sunday schools, like to practically implement this. Who? Christian or anybody, Muslim, anybody. If you give them that chart, what would they, and when somebody would re-record this better, we can slow it down and do it better. But if you can just pause, that's the beauty of YouTube, pause and take a picture of it with your phone and think about these categories. But if you were, say every Sunday you came around and you had to rate yourself of the week, where are you at right now? Hey, it's Sunday morning, we're just checking in, like this is This is Weight Watchers, and we're checking in socially. How you doing? Well, my side, I might gauge myself as a 2 or a 3. What other things in here? Spiritual, 10 probably right now. Emotional, 9.5. Intellectual, 10. I really like what I've learned here from the HVAC. Physical, 10. Environmental, well, my house, but I'm safe and it's okay. I might give it a 6 or a 7. Financial, where's relational? Environmental, social. What did I say? Well, depending on different aspects, but then that could be the thing. So then that becomes the prayer requests, or the things then that don't just sit as prayer requests, which are good, but what we can control is, let's talk about this as a class. And then, so there's a lot of things flying around here, but if I'm actually going to be the president, let's make that step 1. Like, who in the world has step 1 of being a U.S. president? Well, me. Like, that's not the real goal here. We're going to Rome. The whole world. But we need to have a platform that can sell and do this kind of stuff. I forget where my head was. But what I'm saying is that the U.S. law keeps us safe, but it doesn't make us well. Okay, so there are reasons that I can argue why God's way is best. All right? And then sin is essentially anything but why is religion so important? That's why I said, let's just pretend we're atheists. But if we don't have an eternal thing, we're left with some things. Why? Because, Jesus would harp on that. Like, when you look at a woman, God is looking at your heart. That's a good one. Or anything. Are you greedy inside? And, always looking on the inside heart. Well, absent a God, we will be in some kind of tricking, kind of devil-filled world of tricking and lies. Because, no, you didn't, but, but only then I'm just saying conceptually, let's just pretend I'm an atheist. But I'm just saying, even as an atheist, I have to think about that. And that makes sense, because if we can't, because left for a free-for-all, because if we don't have an ethical God that we are accountable to at the end, we're going to become selfish and pleasure ourselves. Okay, what's that? That's from Iron Man. pleasure ourselves with porn, all the things that anybody listen. It's just so tight, this whole system of where the real hope still sits in Jesus, and it comes down to a cooperative effort. But I think it's important to go back a second to Sallenberger County, because we were all doing U.S. legal. Look around, and how many people are really not doing U.S. legal? What did they say in jail? 1 or 2% of people are in jail. So basically, everybody does U.S. legal. Right? But how would you gauge our social, emotional, spiritual, intellectual? How would you gauge all these things if you would rate them as an American, common? Not that good. Definitely not 10. Definitely not 10. So Jesus himself, right? I think he says, "Be holy as I'm holy." Sorry, maybe that's Peter. I don't know everything. Okay, but the call here is to be 10 out of 10 on everything. And this is not an impossible. Eventually, I'm glad how this comes out, because I think this is it. It's not we can have nuances and whatever, but the basic call of what it means to be a beta rock believing follower. Let's take this, you don't have to be like an intellectual supergiant to get all of this. You got to understand basically 20 minutes of stuff here that I'm saying as the basic guiding ideas of what we're actually trying to evangelize the world into. It's not just to get people saved. That's where I think Billy Graham and just misunderstanding of what that call to the whole world. Go and tell the whole world. What are we telling them? After we get them, we want to be like Joyce Meyer thinking, we want the John 10:10, that I've come that they might have life in abundance to the full until it overflows. Okay, and then you have setbacks, but it all stems from some kind of perversion in the system, not because the rock of Jesus is flawed. Okay? but because people are sinning and effing it up. But that's why the call to stay true to this rock is so important. Like Joni Eareckson taught us, she could be upset about her physicalness. Well, that doesn't mean that it's wrong. You just have to trust and then buy into ultimately where these people go. They're going to heaven, so no matter what, for the rest of your eternal freaking life. I mean, really, mists and stuff. Eternity's like really never ending. Can you own that? Can you own the risk that you take if you don't buy into this? Where you're trading, short-term thinking. Yes, it's the only visible life that we see, and I'm not telling you to flee from it. Obviously, that's no good to think that we should all want to die. But if you really, if you're on that rock understanding, no matter what you face, even if you are disabled, or even if you're like me or anybody's pains in life, we can be happy in the midst of this. Like Paul says, I've learned to live with abased and abounding. It doesn't really matter. I mean, even though I'm so abased in certain areas, am I sad? I mean, yes and no, but not deeply down that it has me crushed down. It has me responding to what the Bible says to overcome evil with good. And how anybody deals with this can be talked about through gotquestions.com. Just saying, it all circles around into some clear method of goodness. And we then are not preaching a Billy Graham gospel of bring them down and get them saved. We're preaching an expanded version that says, no, this is a lifestyle to buy into that does what we want our Miss Americas to be preaching. We need to join them. World peace here. World peace. Now, what I have observed, and this is where shepherd comes in, or whatever, or prophet, because what I really deeply think, I do not think this is impossible. I mean, come on, if we really buy into this, we have to have hope that it can be, that we can actually do it. I'm not just saying words, but something that can be believed. Like, you know what, in our generation, we can take it from here to the finish line of world peace. I'm developing the ideas, prayerful, however you want to look at it. But come on here. What are we trying to do? Do we not want to be and have some kind? What could be better than that? Do we want to decide to get to Mars? I mean, what's that going to do? Like, who cares? I mean, fine. I don't. But the best idea I can come up with in terms of what's a global vision is world peace. Along with the fact of then, so we on the global level, but down to the individual level that occurs because we're buying into the same rock of Jesus and the systematic method and theology of it all, but down to the daily John 10:10 life that to come in abundance to the full until it overflows. Sollenberger Accounting made a bunch of clients that were not happy. So if we think as America the way that it is the best, well, it might be the best, but there is definitely a better. Jesus calls us, gives us the opportunity to get to these better places, better than the American system, better, way better. Okay, and then basically, when I think about it, we can frame things around that. These two teachings here, I mean, I'm glad they're the first two, because I think they're just so comprehensive. Everything kind of hems off of that, or hinges off of that, or feeds off of that, or stems off of that. John 15 thinking. But where we fundamentally F it up is core to the actual idea of peace, okay? Why do we do PFAs? Why do we set up walls? Why do we, we're trying to protect and keep people safe, okay? And I get that, but there is a tragic flaw in that thinking. And what I am curious and confident to believe is that if we do church discipline, okay, conflict is not bad. We can, hear me now, trust that God gave us roles. He gave us a flesh. He gave us interests. He gave us minds. He gave us a God-breathed holy book Bible, that if we do it, there is no reason deep down that we can trust that every single person, okay, every single person can be a 10 out of 10 on how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 8 of these things is a gauge to wellness that we can't all of us be 10 out of 10. I believe we can have that hope. And I believe that the irony of not trusting in conflict and having mechanisms to work it out just as simply as Matthew 18 lays out. You have a conflict, you go to the person, and I say about this green slip of paper, we need to lay out what that is. Because I believe in my conflicts for sure. People get involved and F around with it thinking that their needs aren't going to be met, when if we simply had a process to carefully go through it, we would not have to hurt each other. Not deeply. Definitely wouldn't have to, shoot each other. Because we can trust that these 8 things can be met in any number of ways. But then it doesn't mean that we limit ourselves, because when we live as it is now, that's basically, we're just always compromising. Why is Lauren Daigle's song, you say I'm valuable, because what we are trading is we are trading peace, this notion of peace as Americans, for a lack of life. I'm sorry, but no matter how many times you want to tell me that lust is wrong, and hear me now, it is. But as much as you want to preach that, it also denies the reality that Salma Hayek is beautiful, okay? We can't be human and not think she's pretty, okay? But we can learn to trust God to take care of our needs if we can't have her, and however that all works out. But we can't. But if we get pressed down, which is mainly what I think American culture from church to state tries to do, basically with this notion of peace, that I say no. Conflict is not a sign. Conflict is a mechanism to take what is broken and makes it whole. When we get through this, it is not long-term unpeace. It is what we have to do. It's the great exchange. Somewhere these words might get better as this gets polished by me or other people, but conflict is the mechanism to take us from a 5 on any one of these things to a 10. There's got to be conflict, there's got to be change, but we can trust that it can be worked out. But when we literally live in a society that does not know how to handle conflict, when we just throw a PFA on it or put a wall up, that does not help. That just allows conflict to never get dealt with and never get healed. Come on now, that ought to get me frickin' elected. Really, if I could say all that compared to even Donald Trump, who I think he and I would get along just fine. How can you not think that's a good message? I simply believe that we have one life to live, and I, for one, am not taking a second seat to nobody no more, because I believe very strongly in that method and this thinking and this approach, and I don't want us to live in a Revelation doomsday mentality. I want us to believe that, just like John 10:10 said, God has come that we can have life in abundance to the full until it overflows. And yeah, we got a system here, and yeah, there's going to be roaches that are going to swirl around, but we can trust God to meet our needs now. And the most fundamental thing, and yes, boy, maybe it got birthed out of my own problems in life that hurt so deep, but it's not just my problems. Matthew 18 is a pervasive problem. Conflict is a pervasive problem. God put it in my heart at age 12 or 18, around then, to be baiter. How could that happen? Okay. Maybe that's the third thing. My prayer about the fish in Shippensburg, the 50-50 drawn and being named baiter. True times when God just came down. Oh. Comment, people. Talk to me. All right. That's my platform.